Good morning, Tuvalu! Oh, I was about to say we're early, but we're not anymore. The amount of time it took me to hit unmute. We're now exactly on time, because I saw people waiting. Welcome to Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episode 20, Supernova, Part 2, which I forgot to mention last time is actually the name of the Star Trek game that came out recently, is Star Trek Prodigy Supernova. But yes, today, the thumbnail's quite sad now, isn't it? I didn't intend for it to be a sad thumbnail, but I kind of like how, God, however, like a year, 6 months ago, however long it's been, when I randomly decided the order of the three thumbnails that we ended on this one. At least we didn't end on the one where I'm taking away holographic Janeway's pips. Or am I taking real Janeway's pips? I don't remember how we drew it. But yes, I think we have to start off with a very deep thank you to the Prodigy, the people who make Prodigy, Nickelodeon, Paramount, all those people. Because I have never seen a show just hand me a thumbnail background. Look at that. Do you know how, like, difficult it is to find some of these nebulas for the thumbnail? Like, I spent a good half hour trying to find a good thumbnail of the nebula where, like, the burn planet is for Discovery Season 4, but I've already taken a screenshot of this one for Season 2, because look, just, you can see it. That's a gorgeous shot.
It's pretty.
It is pretty. But more consequential reviews. That was beautiful. That's a lovely story. That's a beautiful story. The culmination of the whole season, and also this episode in particular. I'm actually just now realizing that very little of this episode, which is quite short for a finale actually, 24, Carlos A. Smith, good morning. It's afternoon in your area. That is why we say good morning Tuvalu, where it is currently 8 a.m. in an island in the middle of the Pacific. It is a very awful time zone to try and work with because there's, like, nothing there. But Tuvalu is the one we've settled on.
Afternoon.
Yep.
Also, Happy New Year's, everybody.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year, Aniket, who I believe is actually in 2023.
We'll be there soon.
We're one of the last.
Also, it's afternoon.
But in Tuvalu, it's 8 a.m. So that's why we say good morning, Tuvalu. The first live stream I did, Carlos, it was 8 a.m. in Vietnam. And so I had to do the good morning Vietnam, and that's why we do that now. But yeah, I'm just realizing now that very little of this episode is actually kind of like the plot.
Your comet chewing on his bone under you.
Don't point it out. Some of them might not have. But yeah, it's only like this bit. Maybe the first third or so is actually plot, and the rest is kind of chilling and relaxing, which is very nice. This gives a lot of merit to the argument that a lot of people are disappointed by Voyager's endgame, where they get home and then it just kind of ends. You don't get to see them actually at home. I never thought I'd like an episode where they just hung out at home, but now I think I would have. But no, going back to more broadly, yes, this was a beautiful story. Carlos, on an island in the Pacific, where are you? I am in Spokane, Washington. But, you know, there are parts of the world where it's morning, and Tuvalu, an island in the Pacific, is one of those parts. I severely doubt we'll ever have anyone from Tuvalu watching these live streams. It is a very small island, most noted for being the .tv in websites such as twitch.tv. But, that's not legitimately. That's like a significant portion of that island's GDP is selling internet domains. But yeah, I'm still in Washington, but we're still going to be one of the last to enter the new year, as is tradition. Yeah, this was a beautiful story about, you know, about the Federation, about the Starfleet, at that kind of macro, theme. The words are escaping me, but that kind of theme level, It's a great story about the kids, the kids who lived a really sucky life, to put it mildly, coming together, discovering the Federation, the ideals, the better way of life, and making their way there, finding something to believe in that's greater than themselves, and all that lovely Starfleet jazz. More, in terms of an actual plot, it was very nice. It was good watching them grow. The conclusion, it's a very tight time travel plot. It really is. Not fully, as in the 15 minutes between finishing this episode and starting this live stream, I went, oh, god dang it. Hang on, how does this work? But we'll get to there. We're going to praise this a lot before we start critiquing it. But, no, I loved it. There's Janeway's little speech that she gives to the trial. Like, we'll get more into it, but it's just what she says. Like, I was lucky enough to have grown up with Starfleet, but there are people out there who, like, don't have the luxury of living in a federation or living in an alliance. And so that's very true, especially for the target audience of those younger kids who've never seen Star Trek. The kind of messages and themes, I think, hit home even more and, inspire what the kids saw, what the main cast saw at the start in, like, episode 1 and 2 when they first heard of the Federation. And, in the past year, what it drove them to, those Federation ideals. And I realize it's kind of incorrect in the real world sense that the kids watching this will have grown up with Starfleet because, they're kids when they're watching it. But yeah, they've never knew a Starfleet a year ago. Carlos, again, beside the passable narrative, the abrupt editing... I'm sorry, I can't read. The abrupt editing endings were mind-breaking. I've never seen any anime treated like that. We're... Carlos, I think you might find some opposition, because we're generally pretty favorable on Prodigy here. The abrupt editing endings. Are you saying that in this episode there were, kind of like Lord of the Rings style, a bunch of different editings? Because I didn't notice that. I'm looking through now. But no, I've enjoyed much of Prodigy. I think it could have gone further. To go back to this little thing, in part because I'm watching a lot of TNG. In Janeway's speech, I kind of wish there was like a for like the Picard style, kind of getting angry at the judges. I couldn't help draw the parallels in my mind of just hearing, Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits. That sort of, how dare you try and tell these kids they aren't good enough for Starfleet kind of attitude. But I completely understand why they didn't do it, especially considering, thinking of the younger kids, where I felt the loss of Hollow Janeway, but especially considering them who were so attached to that Janeway, the role model, the figure of the Federation, losing her and then instantly going, here's the replacement, and she's shouting at people. That's not a good move. We know Janeway, we have that association. And yes, Janeway, I don't think was ever really like that. She was never the Picard, get angry and shout. Which sounds weird, because Picard is not an angry, shouty person, but I think that sort of moral reprimanding she did, but I don't think Janeway was ever the Starfleet was founded.
We don't talk about Picard's crew. I'm still not happy with the last episode.
So Alex's favorite characters in TNG so far have been Worf, Data, and Tasha, and yesterday we watched Skin of Evil. It didn't go... Alex did not like it.
They're actually gonna kill her.
Alex, it hit Alex. So we're not allowed to talk about TNG for a bit. They're on a break. But
we don't talk about Star Trek. No.
That's a problem, Alex.
We don't talk about Star Trek.
That's a problem for this live stream.
Sorry.
We
don't talk about Tasha. No.
Side note.
No. We don't talk about Tasha.
I know I just said we were going to praise Prodigy a lot before my two main criticisms, but I have just realized that I was going to say there are a lot of Orions in the audience, then I realized these people are the same woman and these guys are the same woman. And
it was never day. It was never day.
I'm pretty sure they have more background Starfleet officers than that to repeat why even, like, right there? Swap this lady, this Orion, put this Boolean over here. Look, this Orion is in 3 places in this shot. What? Okay, there we go. That feels a bit lazy, but, you finally saw that one. Yes. In my defense, I haven't been looking at the screen too much, and my mic is in front of one of those Orions. But yeah, there's the 3 Orions right there, and presumably... Actually, let's get a shot of this. Let's poke fun. I'm gonna praise Prodigy. Well, look at this shot. They've got more people. Or, like, keep the Orion, but put it in a different color uniform. Like, I can't imagine that would be too difficult. This Boolean, I think, is here 4 times. So see, look, these guys are far apart. That's fine. Like, most of the people are far apart. And I'd point out, that, yeah, like, we're seeing this because we're sat here paused on the screen and looking in the background. You know, animation does this sort of thing a lot. But, I mean, it at least changed their shirt color. Yes, let's go and do chronological, and I'm sure I'll have a lot to talk about. Do I want to start with chronological, because that's one of my negatives. All right, we'll start with chronological, and we'll get a negative out of the way. That perhaps this was discussed and I missed it or have misinterpreted. But when we left off last episode, as I understood it, when a Starfleet vessel becomes under distress, whatever, it automatically sends out an SOS. And because the Starfleet ships that are here are infected with the thingy, the thing whose name I can never remember, the construct, it spreads through them. And it's not the protostar that's spreading it. They did originally, but it's now spreading from the ships. It's like a virus, whatever. The Prodigy was, or the protostar was patient 0. And so I didn't quite understand how destroying the construct or the protostar would solve the issue. I mean, it could be that, like, it's spreading through other ships, but the construct still controls everything, like some sort of hive mind. If you kill the Borg queen, the Borg are gonna become in disarray, like maybe that kind of thing. I don't think that was explained, but that did lose me a bit. Like, why is this working? And, like, again, I can explain it. I just did. And it is kind of the trope of killing the big bad and then all the little droids fall down. I wish that was maybe, like, stated. Like, even in this conversation, if it wasn't before, like, all the ships are still hooked up to the construct. So if we destroy the construct, we save the day. I just didn't think that was established. Or if it was, I have since forgotten or misinterpreted it. What ships survived that slaughter, Carlos? I think it's the new ships that are showing up. Because there were new ships showing up all the time. This is around, like, Mars. We saw Mars in the last episode. And if not, it's close enough to, like, Earth to destroy the solar system. So there are plenty of ships. But yeah, I critiqued last time that I felt the firepower was really weak, particularly from the Sovereign class. It was off-screen, but I like how when we pick up in this episode, like, yes, this is absolutely devastating. This is horrendous. And, like, this is what it should look like if a bunch of the, like, most powerful Starfleet warships in the Centaur class start shooting each other. The Dauntless surviving is a little interesting because it was here more often, but maybe it didn't. I mean, it didn't blow up, but it was in pretty bad shape. I don't know if we ever saw it follow the protostar. But no, other than that, I think this Janeway sacrifice works in a lot of ways. I think, first off, like, mechanically, with the next season actually bringing in real Janeway, having holographic Janeway would just be confusing and is unnecessary. So something had to happen to her character. Like, mechanically, yes. That was smart. Emotionally, I think it works on a lot of levels. I might have said this before. I've certainly explained it with Synth Picard. Yeah, and I've had to have in some sort of trailer analysis. Holographic Janeway and our real Janeway, which is somewhat racist, but that's what we're going to refer to them as. I guess original. We'll call them original and holo Janeway.
Still sounds awkward.
It was the original, though. It's like if you made a clone. Like, there was one that was there first.
And yet, you say if it was me and a clone, you wouldn't shoot the clone for being evil.
Well, this is what I'm about to discuss is...
What if holographic Janeway was evil? Would you shut her off?
She is evil in one episode. She's very goth. I can't remember if they shut her off or not. But, holo Janeway and original Janeway are different people. They've lived, different lives. But, it was made clear in one Mind Walk, I think it was, that holo Janeway has all the memories and experience and personality and yada yada of original Janeway up until the point that she was created. I assume there's not some live link that she's getting new data. So yeah, holo Janeway is the same person as original Janeway up until the point she's actually created. This Janeway on screen right now went to the Delta Quadrant, commanded Voyager, owned a dog, a few dogs. This is original Janeway. Sorry, this is the Janeway that we see in Voyager, in Nemesis. So, I can still look at this sacrifice as character development from that Janeway. I think there's a lot of parallels to the Doctor. I can't remember the name of the name of the episode for the life of me. But there's an episode of Voyager where the Doctor has gotten so much experience being always turned on and learning new things that he becomes too big for, his program's just too big. It starts to degrade. It needs more memory. And I don't remember how Janeway was exactly in that episode, but I do remember that Janeway is completely against holograms and the Doctor is a glorified tricorder until the end of the episode where she learns to treat him like a real person. And then at the start of the next episode about holographic right, he's a glorified tricorder. So I'm going to assume that the Doctor was a glorified tricorder in Janeway's mind in that episode. I think I talked before. It's never addressed, but I kind of and it's lost arguably because original Janeway does not get this development. When holo Janeway dies, original Janeway dies. When holo Janeway dies, original Janeway, the things Janeway learned as holo Janeway die with her because they're different people. But it's kind of a realization for this holo Janeway, at least, of the value of holographic life and kind of what the Doctor must have been going through, the validation. It'd be nice to see some show, arguably Prodigy is in a great position to do it, tackle holographic rights. Because where we left off in Voyager, they still didn't have any. They were working towards it, but the holograms just in the Federation didn't have any rights. Carlos, with the many or few plot holes not touched, the infiltration on Janeway's ship with that ensign, and the nothing was mentioned about the loss of ships or personnel at the tribunal. Nothing was said. I'll give you that, yeah, the loss of life of the protostar should probably have been included in the scenes we saw. Maybe they didn't want to bring attention to, all the slaughter in a kid's show. I don't know, Murph straight up killed a Romulan in a recent episode. And there should have been, it wasn't their fault or they were trying to save us. That should have come up. I assume it was off screen, but I agree. That probably should have been in the part we saw. I can't speak for plot holes unless you talk about specific ones. But generally, I think the plot is very tight. There are the one I just addressed earlier, and one at the end I'm going to get to. But largely, I do think the plot was pretty good, pretty tight. Infiltration on Janeway's ship. Yeah, I commented on my problems and my praise of that episode in the original review. And that's true. That ensign, the Vindicator, I assume you're talking about, is still out there, which is something I forgot about. I'm sure she'll pop up again in season 2. I mean, it's like season 2 needs an adversary, and it doesn't really have one other than an inability to get to Chakotay. And so I imagine she'll kind of step forward as an adversary. Anakin, again, the sacrifice of hologram Janeway just gave the tragedy for no one was prepared. Yes, I am autistic. It is very difficult to get me to cry because I will, far more often than not, emotionally shut down. In the extreme, I will just become emotionless. Emotionless. That happens extraordinarily rarely nowadays because I've worked to prevent it. But definitely there was some emotional shutdown, which is always unfortunate, personally, because I can't fully kind of experience these episodes. But definitely my eyes were very watering. I did basically what would be a normal cry for me. Yes, no, I definitely felt that. That hit me. And I think if we go back to kind of narratively how the episode is constructed, I think it's great that Holo Janeway dies and we basically immediately pick up with original Janeway. Not as like a pure swap, not like, oh, it's okay, Janeway's still here, because that's wrong. That disrespects everything Holo Janeway's just done. But more as like both reassurance for the kids and like just keeping kind of the cohesion. I don't know. I think it was good. Like what you don't want is, you know, little Timmy next to you on the couch who's upset for the next year because Janeway died. Like you want him to be but you want that kind of something to console them in the meantime. And again, this is why I think they didn't have one of the reasons they didn't have Janeway get real angry and be like, how dare you try and deny these kids who just saved our butts. But yeah, I'd love to see a take of Picard doing this speech, like just getting really angry. I love just high and mighty Picard. Carlos, this wasn't a kid's show. By the 3rd or 4th episode, it was advertised for the whole family. In the beginning, said so, but they changed their tone on it. I disagree. I was always posed as a kid's show, but it was always posed as a kid's show that did not talk down to its audience, was not written differently because it was a kid's show, and could be fully enjoyed by adults. Which is definitely its own category from like family show and whatnot. I disagree, and from the general feel I get in chat, there's a disagreement that it is not written differently because it's a kid's show. Most people I've talked to feel there is a line that Prodigy is not crossing, a very undefined, like, you know, I couldn't tell you what you have to do to cross it. I can't tell you why you're not crossing it or really what's missing. But we can feel that line that's stopping a good show from becoming like a great show. The one I always point to is Steven Universe. Is a kid show, a full-on kid show that is about war crimes, the horror of war, oppression, and disenfranchisement, I suppose. But it is like firmly a kid show that's not written differently because it's a kid show, as being about war crimes and the horrors of war probably showed you. What was my original point? But yeah, I like that. I did kind of find it weird that Holo Janeway was surprised when she didn't fit on the little isolinear chip, and it was like, oh, she was like, huh? It's like, I don't know, you think you might have known, especially when there was like 40% missing. You could also say, when the heck did she record that message? To which I would argue that she is the computer. She doesn't actually have to do it in real time. She could like probably record that message in 2 seconds flat like simulate it or whatever. But hey, you know, as in always, I shouldn't have to explain this stuff. The show should do it. Carlos again. I didn't say on the writing. I saw the advertisement on Facebook, FB, I assume it's Facebook, especially on the pages dealing with Prodigy. Perhaps. I have not seen those episodes. Those advertisements. So you may be right. I know the advertisement I've been getting is a kid show made for the whole family. Or I think the wording I would see a lot was geared towards kids, which I suppose, strictly speaking, is not a kid's show geared towards kids. I'm not sure if I'd say they changed tone halfway through. Let me hide this for a second. Whoops. I just want to get a quick look at the episode list. Also, shoutouts to Google Chrome for usually to get here I type para and the show will pop up, but usually it's the last show because it's the one I visit the most. It took until like last week for Prodigy to finally be the first result, and that really annoyed me. I think it's more that we didn't get into like really meaty or potentially more grown-up plot lines until the latter half of the season. So the first one I can think of is actually Time Amok. There we go, episode 8, where Rock Talk was stuck for like ages in the slow timeline. That I think was the first time I said I think they should have taken it further, or I wish they took it further. Technically episode 7, because it was the first one was a parts 1 and 2. But and then I think it was just more gradual. Well, no, you had the ending, because that next up you have the season 1 finale. But I think most of the big developments were in season 2 that would warrant that that criticism. Aniket, but the assassination. Sorry, I have to have a brief coughing fit. God, that came out of nowhere. Aniket, but the assassination of the Diviner by the Ensign Insensia, or the Vindicator, wasn't kid-friendly on the penultimate episode. I can't remember how he died. Wasn't he, like, stabbed or something? Yeah, Prodigy has definitely, at least once crossed the line of, well, I was like, oh, I'm kind of surprised you had this on a kid's show. Not necessarily I'm like, oh god, I wouldn't show my kid this, but I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. The first one is Murph's blatant murder of those Romulans when he, like, kicks them off the space elevator. They can't fly. And if you're arguing they can fly because we saw them parachute down, how come they didn't fly up to the space elevator again? And then there was, like, the street brawler scene or whatever in, when they were going through all the holodeck ones. I don't know the names of the episodes yet. I was like, oh, I'm a bit surprised that they have, like, a full-on street brawl scene that had, like, kind of proper punches. I've noticed Prodigy's fight scenes tend to be more, less anatomical, I'll call it. Like, often, if someone's in a fist fight, it's Murph, and he's stretching like Jake from Adventure Time. It's very cartoony. It's very impossible. I mentioned before, Jake did like a Kamehameha, like a sort of magic-y thing. I know when I was a kid, my parents didn't really have a problem with kind of fantasy magic violence in games and stuff. Like, I could play Skyrim or stuff like that, but they were more concerned about like a GTA or something. That was like actual guns, like I could go out and do this theoretically in the real world. And so it kind of gave that vibe of people are, in America, the kind of rating systems for games, I don't know if TV has it. You have violence and you have fantasy violence or cartoon violence. And they're kind of rated at different levels. So usually it was that. Not always, but yeah, it's weird whenever you get into what's appropriate. Like, the biggest one, was always, you can have a guy stabbed to death, but you can't show his butt. It's like, I think we're getting more lenient, in part because things are moving into the streaming services and whatnot. But if you ever start like seriously analyzing what's appropriate, you're always gonna find weird contradictions or just like, because I say so. It's just not allowed. But yeah, by and large, there's nothing in here I wouldn't show a kid of any age, really. So yeah, definitely, this is a Nickelodeon show. It fits for that demographic. Carlos, stab, gut wound, but they didn't show the actual stab, they just showed the reaction. Yes. And also, in my head, either he didn't bleed or he had some, like, blue blood around his wound, which is the other big kids thing, or family even, is when people get stabbed, they don't bleed. That's always, like, usually it's blood and guts is what people are concerned about, and not the actual kind of violence. Star Trek Prodigy is rated TV Y7 FV. I don't know what FV is. Oh, fantasy violence. There we go. Yeah, I'd give it that. There's just the one or two things I'm like, ooh, that's unsurprising. But, yeah, I don't know. If my future kid is like, Daddy, why did that Romulan fall down? Is he dead? I'll be like, oh, they have rocket boots. It's okay. But yeah, I think, again, Carlos, that's probably the biggest reason they didn't bring up the, like, thousands that died in this battle, is because that would bump up its rating, or that might bump up its rating. That might, there might be cause for concern as a kid's show. Let's move forward a bit. Yeah. Janeway, I do kind of wonder as I watch these what Janeway's crew must have thought, because they still don't know about the mind transfer thing. I think I respect how quickly Janeway kind of starts accepting these kids and protecting them, even going like, the Federation's not going to give a damn, but I'm going to spend the months searching for the kids, like, that we have no reason to believe are even alive at this point. They very likely died. And, I definitely respect her later on, like, standing up for them and, yeah, fighting for them. But it is unusual. It's probably something I'll have to analyze more on a binge, kind of how quickly she goes for them, but maybe she's just better than me, I accept that Janeway would go full over. I just kind of wonder, maybe that's the professionalism, is just kind of the stuff I've been arguing for more of in the modern Star Treks, where the crew is like, this is our admiral. Like, I don't really understand what she's doing right now, but she's the admiral. She doesn't have time to explain, and, like, she's not actively putting us in unreasonable danger, so I'm gonna sit down and do my job. That's probably just what I'm seeing. Moving forward. Yeah, and, Janeway's moments are here nice, like saying her final goodbyes when she can't let the crew know it's the final goodbyes. I did like Murph manning the captain's chair, I must say. But no, I found this whole thing very touching. It resonated a lot, independently, like in Prodigy, but also having the context of Voyager, of knowing Janeway, of knowing holographic rights, of knowing her relationship with the Doctor, and I almost forgot, of knowing her relationship with Chakotay. Like, Janeway, this is a fitting end for original Janeway, standing up for the Federation values, what she believes in, just rescuing these, for all intents and purposes, random kids. And doing so to save Chakotay and leave a message for her other self to go and rescue Chakotay. I will always say that Voyager Janeway is everybody's favorite one-track mind homicidal maniac. And I'm not sure if I've ever really tried to justify that in a video or stream or not. But it's the Janeway who would obsess with going back in time to specifically save Seven, not her entire medical staff, not any of the Borg children, not just preventing Voyager from being stranded in the Delta Quadrant anyway, not the random ensigns who would have died before, but specifically Seven. Or other examples are kind of struggling, but she would get that very one-track mind focused. And this is a great, having that dedication to still go after Chakotay and set herself up for that, but also saving the kids, also saving Starfleet, also doing everything else, not one-track mind, but like keeping everything together. A very fitting end for a version of this character. Carlos, actually, she is taking them under her wing to find her former first officer. The kids won't be around Starfleet. Yes, we'll get into the ending later on and season 2. But it's complicated always having two versions of the same character, which is why she had to go, because it would have just been unusual. Do you think all the other protostars have Holo Janeways? Like, that might be weird in one episode if they go up against a protostar class. But yeah, that would be kind of funny. I mean, they've got Kate Mulgrew on set; they could do it. I also I'll save that for the end. But yeah, moving forward, I kind of like them replicating the most bare-bones shuttlecraft. And, that doesn't have chairs, but I assume does have a replicator, given that they had to eat something in the month that it took them to get to the Federation. There you go. That might be my one little gripe. I might have to listen to what they replicated in the shuttle again. Maybe replicator comes as standard, but, yeah, what'd they eat? It's all the ice cream they had, like, a few episodes ago. It would just absolutely filled them up for a month. My throat is getting scratchy, and I don't know why, because I feel like I haven't not talked in a while, but I've just realized that in, like, 2 months' time, in Picard, I'm gonna be very raspy by the end of a stream. I did like the solution, though. Barring the confusion I have about why destroying the construct saves the day. I think it's clever. I think it's scientific. In principle, very simple. Just spread the energy across a wider area. But I mean, I think that's great. It's another maybe one of those like passive educational things for the real little kids, but it's a simple yet clever solution to the problem, which is always nice to see. And of course, beautiful arts. I hope this nebula gets a name at some point. I hope it doesn't wreak havoc through the solar system. But no, we'll say it blew up farther away. Anything else? Is that a Centaur class still? I think it's just weird because it's broken. I don't think there's going to be any new ships from the last episode. I did get a little chuckle of, like, I really wish he did say, right now, Jankum is probably wondering why I'm so small. It did feel weird when she said Jankum's probably wondering why I'm not a hologram. Because she is a hologram. A pre-recorded message hologram, but still a hologram. But yeah. It was sweet. It was a very sweet, lovely story. I thought we were going to get a shot of the Golden Gate Bridge without solar panels for a second, which at that point is blasphemy. I know they make no sense. But it would have been blasphemy to not have them at this point. I want the solar panels. Can someone in chat would probably remember, the Golden Gate Bridge never had solar panels until Discovery, or Picard, right? Whichever did it first. Like, TNG Golden Gate Bridge was still the Golden Gate Bridge, wasn't it? Or am I just way wrong here? Yeah, I don't know why I'm playing.
Why is the Golden Gate Bridge bumpy?
It's solar panels. Which,
imagine taking a much.
well, it's hilarious because they have like fusion in matter antimatter reactors. Like they do not need solar panels. They also don't need cars. Like they have shuttles and stuff. They might have flying cars, but they don't use cars. So I always find it hilarious that there's just solar panels on the Golden Gate Bridge. Can someone, actually, I don't think I've ever checked this, but is that even, like, angled correctly? Google Maps, Golden Gate Bridge. Because I would love it if those are, like, north-south facing solar panels. Someone had to check this. Oh, no, they are east-west solar panels. Let's see. Can I show this screen? Yes, I can. They are east-west solar panels, but yeah, I would have loved if they were north-south. Wait, no, hang on. They are north-south solar panels. That's amazing. Oh my god, no, I got it backwards because they're with the bridge. They are north-south solar panels. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Carlos, oh man, does anyone have a great explanation for how they get past the sensor network around Earth and crash in the bay? Who says they did? Janeway was in a meeting. It's not like she's always listening in. Earth Space Dock could have picked them up. They could have, I mean, we see like ships flying out from San Francisco. So, yeah, like who says someone didn't watch them? They took them down. They were right there. And then someone told Janeway, like they ran as soon as their space dock got the word. She just ran to Janeway and informed her. You know, who says they got past the sensor network? Also, they are quite small. You know, Earth is busy. That's maybe how they got close enough. Solar invoked on Discovery, Picard, and Prodigy. Yes, I thought that was original to modern Star Trek. And Aniket, the animators are portraying San Francisco Bay Area, what it will look like in 2380s. I think that Picard's modern day San Francisco still has solar panels, which tickles me. But yeah, I mean, the city's fine. Why not let people walk on the bridge? Like, you don't need the power. You have fusion and antimatter. Like, I don't see, I love how redundant the solar power on the Golden Gate Bridge is going to be in 2380. If it was like the Sahara Desert is just solar panels now, that'd be one thing. But you're not going to get a significant amount of power from the Golden Gate Bridge and solar compared to fusion and matter-antimatter. I just like, and they have to maintain these solar panels over centuries. I find it funny. It amuses me. Maybe if you did the math, it would make sense, but it tickles me. I used to think it was dumb. I thought it was so stupid when I saw it the first time. But even 32nd century Earth has solar panels on the Golden Gate Bridge, which was so dumb. But now it's just one of those stupid things that tickles me. And like, yes, we have to have the solar panels. I've just realized if Strange New Worlds also shows solar panels, and even if Picard Season 2 did, that means that at some point in history they installed solar panels on the Golden Gate Bridge, removed them in the 24th century, and then put them back, like, in 2380 or 90 or something, which is even better. Are we ready for plot hole number 2?
No.
Yes, this is the bit where I put my head down like, oh no, my perfect time travel plot, there's a hole. So, everything up until this point, time travel wise, I think works. Star Trek has always been inconsistent about, is it like an alternate timeline? Does it change history? You know, different methods of time travel do different things. If you change history, do people from the alternate history disappear, or do they exist independently? Like, it's been inconsistent. So, the rules that Prodigy set down, you know, that's all that really matters for this form of time travel. So, Chakotay, in the original timeline, because the Vulcan does mention Chakotay's trapped in an alternate timeline that still exists. Chakotay, if we call this episode present day, sometime in the future, Chakotay makes contact with Solus, I think it is, Solum. And, that kicks off Civil War, yada yada, bad times. Solus decides in 52 years to send a bunch of people back in time to stop first contact. That creates an alternate timeline. Yada 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 yada. Holographic Janeway recreates the exact wormhole and temporal anomaly that took Chakotay 52 years in the future. Why does the protostar end up in the alternate future and not the new future where Starfleet presumably never makes contact with Solus? There are kind of workarounds, like maybe it didn't, but the temporal instability and the similarity in the wormholes created some sort of link. Janeway's got to get herself to an alternate future, I've just realized. At some point, we know Starfleet does learn about alternate futures, and heck, even do things in alternate timelines, because the 32nd century directly references an alternate future created by a time-traveling Romulan mining ship, which I refuse to accept as the 2009 timeline. That was always an independent timeline because it doesn't make sense for it to have been changed solely by the intervention of unnamed characters, as Alex is next to me. But, they learn about them is the important thing. I don't get why that worked. Like, I can hardly point to real science. It could be like, maybe that's just how these wormholes work. And maybe, yeah, it was just close enough. It let things bleed through. Prodigy's gonna have to explain how Janeway gets to an alternate future. But, this is plot hole 2. Time travel, man. Someone's gonna do it one day without problems. And I can't wait for NerdCube's book to come out to read it. Some responses in chat. Carlos again, by 2258, so that's Strange New Worlds, I believe, maybe Late Discovery, the Golden Gate Bridge's tubes, appeared to be covered in solar panels. It was again around the beginning of the 25th century. Amazing. So this is 24th century, so we have to revise it a bit, but yes, they dismantled the solar panels and then actively chose to put them back. I love how superfluous they are. Carlos A. Smith, People of Earth, which is season 3, and Such Sweet Sorrow Part 2. Is that season 2? And Picard Remembrance. More plot holes are mystery holes. Yeah, no, these aren't wormholes, they're plot holes. That's how it worked. Is the plot needed Chakotay's message to get to this timeline, and so it had to travel through a plot hole. Done. I love it. Also, I've just gotten, the game vibes from these.
I heard gay vibes, what?
No, the game.
Oh.
Although they are ruby and sapphire colors.
Do you like how I heard what I thought was
Yeah.
gay vibes, and I was like, excuse me, I've been summoned?
And look, watch this, Alex. You'll love this. The ruby and sapphire plot holes are going... Oh, God, you can't see the screen. They're going to become... Garnet! How long have you not been able to see the screen? You should tell me these things.
Maybe you should look to your left.
I do. I think it was when I got the Golden Gate Bridge up. But you should tell me these things. Yeah. Also, here we go. Here's the equation. This is why you can go to the alternate screen. Lol. Yeah, it's your fault. You should have told me you couldn't see the screen.
That wouldn't have helped if you don't look to your left to read chat.
I do. I do, but the screen's over. It's more left. Mm-hmm. I need a third monitor again.
Shame, Nathan, shame.
All right, here's the same people. I'd love it if randomly there's a clone plot line that runs through Prodigy with this Orion woman. Could this be? Well, she's got the wrong hair. No, this couldn't be Tindy because Lower Decks was last year. That next year, the next season of Lower Decks is going to overlap with Prodigy.
Progeny.
Prodigy.
Progeny.
Progeny is a character in the show.
Progeny.
Yeah. Let's go forward. We got the tribe. Oh, I noticed something as well.
A star.
Is it just me, or does the color palette of the series change once they make it to Earth? Because Prodigy was always, I'm not gonna say there weren't exceptions, but by and large, it is this metallic. It has white, but it is more this gray metallic. It's colorful, yet still dark, if that makes sense. Alex, you're an artist. You might explain it better. Well, Prodigy's always had color, and it's been very vibrant. It's like, look, there's a lot of red, there's the big nebula stuff. It's been dark still. It's been, like, kind of darker, a lot of these blues, or even blacks and grays. But once they get to Earth, it's a lot of this. It's more orange and more yellow. It's brighter
Probably lit
colors.
by the sun.
Yes, it's more natural lighting. That's it. It's a more natural lighting. But even in these scenes, like, it's white. It's brightly lit. It is, the pre-established kind of architecture and color scheme of this era. But these scenes as well, these are white and blue. I mean, heck, look at Zero. We'll get to that. This is a bit darker. It's more of a, I guess...
Artificial lighting.
It's more of a dulled scene. Like, thematically, this isn't as bright. But, I mean, heck, these endings, I think they're doing something thematically here. Like, Lower Decks, I've said plenty of times before, will often animate the bridge crew in the bridge at a higher quality than the other parts of the ship to kind of elevate it and, like, make it seem important and special.
It might not be they're animating it at a higher quality. It could
No.
be they're animating it at a higher frame rate to make it
no.
seem more fluid.
Lower Decks, that's even what they do. They are adding more detail. It is a higher quality animation.
Depends on what you qualify as higher quality animation.
Prodigy, I think they're making Earth, it's like, we've done it. We've got here. It's more cozy. It's utopian. It's what they've always wanted. And it'll be interesting in a watch through to see if that sticks, or maybe like when they put on the uniform in other scenes, does it become this brighter color? That would be, especially if I didn't notice it until now, that would be very well done. But even if this is the first time, like, even Janeway's ship, if you look, the Dauntless is more similar to Earth than the other shots of, like, the Protostar and stuff. In part due to its, architecture. It's Starfleet. It's more traditional Starfleet architecture. But, it's not really till you actually get to Earth that it's like that. The Dauntless is kind of the sliver of that, the little light in the darkness, so to say. But yeah, it's a very well put together episode, I would say, on basically every front. And yeah, I'll have to say, off the top of my head, it's probably like among the tightest time travel plots. Like, First Contact might be tighter because it doesn't do much with the time travel. But it's got to be one of the most kind of sensible. And even just taking time to explain the internal logic, whereas often it's waved away, Moving forward. Love the solar panels. These ships were kind of weird. They felt very un-Federation. I say as I'm just realizing that's not the, like, La Serena type, is it? Yeah, these ships. They just felt weird to me. I also thought, I believe this is HQ, and the Academy is on the other side. Looked a bit different, but actually this looks like that balcony you see a lot. The one balcony that represents Starfleet headquarters. I think it's even the same shot with, like, the same people walking by and, like, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Next Generation that represents Starfleet headquarters is just that balcony. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just probably Google Starfleet HQ, and it'll come up. Even this courtroom, it's a little grayer, because I guess, they're the stakes. We don't know what's going to happen. Is Starfleet going to reject them? and then it gets brighter. But oh my god, the Orion is even on the panel. But yeah, that's. I wonder if the captain's
Did you tell
log.
them what happened to Comet this week?
No,
Why not?
I don't think they want. It's kind of irrelevant, and they don't want to hear it. You got bit by an angry dog the other day, but he's fine. Comet is our dog. If you didn't know, Carlos, I haven't seen you at one of these streams. Maybe you watch them pre-recorded, but I do recognize you. It's nice to see a lot of people here. It's nice to have an active chat as well. But yeah, going through Gwen. Gwen's an interesting one, because I guess now we'll get into what's happening in season 2. Gwen's decision is interesting, because my gut feeling is I agree with what she wants to do. I understand that. She could stay in Starfleet and just be the officer who makes first contact. That is an option, but I do think it's also a risk, because I think I'm not the only one who that's going to have occurred to. Like, it might be better to go now where it's just her. You don't bring the Federation to the doorstep. Like, she goes to try and talk to a world and speak to it. Like, it feels less risky. It feels like there'd be more time to adjust. Like, I imagine she's had a big dilemma back and forth of what to do, how best to serve her world, her people. It's going to be one heck of a shock for the diviner, though, when his daughter comes, like, from the future. But, yeah, I think it's interesting. We're definitely going to run into her, especially with the Vindicator out there. I'm sure their paths will cross. Interesting if Janeway's going to the future, though. I guess well, now the question is Chakotay gonna end up in the alternate future, or is a version of Chakotay going to pop up
Don Quixote?
in the current future 52 years from now? And so I think that's probably too complicated. That, like, it's a complicated plot anyways, but that might be pushing it, to have a Chakotay, now that the future is different, he also shows up in the new future. Everyone following?
Don Quixote.
Chakotay.
Don Quixote.
If you're gonna make fun of his name, at least call him Chocolatey.
Don Chocolatey.
Carlos, you've been on medical recovery. You had surgery. Well, I hope that went well. And I hope
Seeing as you're here,
I hope you do better. Yeah, what?
You survived,
As
but
far
like
as we know.
recover fully soon.
Yeah, this could be a creepypasta. You might have died, and he's like haunting my chat now.
No, I'm not gonna think about that. No, thank you. I'm good.
Anakin, Dal, although being a human augment, he made it to Starfleet as an exception. Yes.
Data.
I'm going to come back to this, because I'm going to do Carlos's comment first, and I've got a lot to say about that. Carlos, she knows the Federation protocols and codes. She knows a bit too much. I'm not completely sure what you're getting at there. Do you mean the Vindicator or Gwen? I assume you mean Gwen as well. But will you answer? I'm going to go back to Anakin. I mentioned before, there is plenty of precedent for augments in Starfleet in this time. You have Bashir, or more broadly, as a part of society. You have Bashir, you have the woman that Bashir helped cured from the group of augments where it went poorly. I can never remember what... That group has a name, but from Deep Space Nine. You also have an expansion of rights all across the board for synthetic life forms, for holographic life forms, which I suppose are the same thing, covered under synthetics. I would love for a show, one of the modern shows, to pick up this augment plot line and reform Starfleet. For reasons I've talked about before, like real world reasons, just the fact it's never made sense in universe, and I think it's damaging out of universe, in the real world. But I can't be Discovery because it's too far in the future for me. It feels like that would really come to a head in the late 24th, early 25th century. I don't think Picard's going to do it. It's just a bit packed in its third season. I'm actually really upset it's Strange New Worlds that seems to be tackling it, because as a prequel, it can't do anything, and in a lot of ways it feels out of place, and any progress they make will feel out of place, because everyone in the future is going to be like what we just saw in that tribunal, like hyper-racist and against the augmentation. I'm fine with the individuals being fine with augmentation. You know, it's a political issue. You know, you're gonna have different sides. It's a bit weird that the like whole Enterprise crew seems to be fine with it, but you know, I'll accept that. You know, these are kind of the best of the best. You know, they're supposed to be Federation's best. The entire Enterprise D crew didn't have a problem with Data being a person. You know, but yeah, it's like Stranger Worlds can't do anything with it because of where it is in the timeline. I'd love a show to pick it up. Prodigy could do it, you know, but with them kind of going off on their own mission, it doesn't feel like it'd be the right place. But, you know, they could still pull it off, I'm sure. Anyone else? Yeah, I think, as I said last time, I went into this episode very unsure about how they would set up a season 2 or what they would do. Presumably, yeah, going after Chakotay, but how they would justify getting the kids on that mission and presumably with Janeway. Yeah, I think they did it all great. I think it's more of like like Starfleet being a bit weird. And I get that, like, yeah, they thought it would be unfair to the candidates currently waiting for admission to just let all you join without any of these tests and stuff. I completely agree. Especially if you take entrance into Starfleet, like what we see with Wesley, where it's, like, stupidly difficult and just absurdly limited in who can get in. Saying that, I wonder what those same people desperately wanting to get into Starfleet would say about a direct tutorage from Admiral frickin' Janeway and, like, going out on missions with her. Like, when Wesley gets to pilot the Enterprise, people complain...
Spoilers.
Well, no, you watch him do it.
Spoilers.
It's what he's doing now.
Spoilers.
No, it's what he's doing now. When he gets made an acting ensign by Picard, for decades people have been going, why the heck does this random kid get to be an acting ensign? Like, when all these people below on the ship have tried, like, decades getting their whole career on the flagship and, like, would love some bridge time.
Because the space Doctor Who told him to.
The space Doctor Who, yeah. But again, it's Admiral frickin' Janeway. She can do what she wants. She can be like, no, I'm taking these kids, and you're not going to stop me because I'm Admiral frickin' Janeway. Like, this is what I said before. If Janeway wanted it, I'm sure you could do it. But if you're arguing the fairness aspect, I'm not sure about that. Because, like...
What about Starfleet's fair? Kirk regularly has repercussions for ignoring the Prime Directive.
This is what I'm saying. Like... You know, that it's hardly out of character, but it is kind of funny that that's the argument they give that I agree with, but then they're like, Janeway is your tutor, you know? It's like wanting to be an astronaut, but like they won't fast track you, so like instead they let Chris Hadfield teach you how to be an astronaut. It's like, oh, okay, if you... He is probably, if you know a current astronaut, it's Chris Hadfield. He's a Canadian astronaut who, if you Google a picture of him, you might recognize him. Because if you are Googling Star Trek, as my chat probably is, you've probably gotten masterclass ads with Chris Hadfield. Carlos, Starfleet is like the NASA program for astronauts. No Joe Schmo can just enter. I think Starfleet's probably harsher, because NASA will allow...
Only one person per quadrant can enter.
Yeah. Well, NASA will allow pilots and teachers, which, not to, you know, dismiss them at all, but, like, getting 10,000 hours, however the NASA demands, is like a pilot. Requires a long career as a pilot, and it's hard to be a pilot. But compared to what we see, like, Wesley go through with his Starfleet exams and a lot of the other stuff, that seems far more grueling and needing a much wider range of expertise, and probably even more limited when you consider the scope of the Federation and the scale of Starfleet. Like, it's real hard to be an astronaut anyway. I guess the astronaut training itself is hard. Like, yeah, that's probably on the same level. But some paths to getting into the NASA, the astronaut program, are easier than others. Whereas it's like probably the hardest part of getting into Starfleet, being a Starfleet officer, is getting into Starfleet. It's crazy. Anakin, I was so happy and glad when Dal and Gwen... Spoilers. There was misread. No, I did talk about this. There was misread. And yeah. Yeah, I felt weird, kind of to have those two scenes back to back. How are we gonna do Picard with Alex sitting right here? That's the question. But, I mean, you could say maybe the first incident made Gwen, like, start thinking about stuff, and maybe she... Yeah, I don't know. It felt narratively odd to have them next to each other. But no, I'm fine with how it played out. I like the subversion of expectations last episode, but, I'm liking this. The series, I think, was building to stronger relationships between the two. Not necessarily romantic, but, it's not like it came out of nowhere.
Unlike how you think Picard
yes,
and Dr. Crusher came out.
I don't think I've talked about this before, but again, being more vague with Alex here. In, like, season 7, it's the episode where they're on, like, it's, like, basically a Cold War allegory planet where they've got, like, the chips that let them read each other's thoughts or whatever, where, like, Picard and Crusher's feelings for each other came to head, as they often did, and I went, wow, that came out of absolutely nowhere. And then I think it was the first episode of Star Trek with Alex that they were like, they wanna bang.
And I saw them enter the elevator, and I was like, the redhead wants to bang the captain,
it's like a
right?
core character trait of both of them. And when my second watch through, I was like, wow, this is painfully... It's not even, like, obvious. It's explicit by, like, the third episode. The one where they all get drunk. The Naked Now. Like, it is explicit. But it was, like, season 7. I'm like, man, that came out of nowhere. Okay. One day, I will have a house, and we will have a room where we can stream and talk spoilers. A new uniform I'm gonna have to make. It's pretty similar. Less color. Or maybe it's because I'm not in a division, actually. Looking at my logo. I'll need a new badge. I don't think I have that badge yet. But, actually, that's an easy badge. Saying that. The deltas are so hard, but that's an easy badge. Thank you for giving me an easy time. This is gonna take some getting used to. It's one of those, I don't think the design feels very Star Trek. It feels very sleek.
Hey, don't bite me.
I won't say generic modern, but, like, it's a very modern in a not Star Trek-y feel. I can see the parallels to, like, the Protostar, the Prodigy Starfleet that we've seen all throughout. But, Portal's Atlas 0 is going to take some getting used to, I think. And I'm not really sure. It's just a bit too clean and clinical for me, I think. Actually, this is my complaint about, like, every sickbay in modern Star Trek, pretty much, is that it's far too clean and clinical. And yes, I have just critiqued sickbay for being too clinical. But
it's a sick
but
bay.
look at this. This is what I mean by clean and clinical. It's like the shiny... I've never really liked it in the modern Star Treks.
It's a hospital.
Carlos, yes, from Portal. Yes, it's hospital is what it is. Well, Zero's not a hospital, though. Zero's not like some medical droid. He's like a person. So why does he look like a medical droid? It's just a look that's not really appealed to me. But, and also it's like jarring because we're so, it's like when the Doctor regenerates. It's like, oh, this is a bit, whoa. Why isn't the 15th Doctor in tie-dye? Come on, people, that was obvious. But eventually it'll become normal. And maybe, here's the thing, maybe it looks awful now, but is gonna look amazing on the new ship. Because that was the thing with Discovery, wasn't it? The original 32nd century uniforms, they look good. I liked them. I think most people did. But it was always like, why isn't the Discovery crew wearing them? And then in the end of the season, they put them on, and you go, oh, it's because they look god-awful on the bridge of the Discovery. And so that's why they change them in season 4. I have to imagine, because the uniforms looked awful on the set, like the main set, and so they made better ones. It could be that Zero looks awful in this aesthetic, but when you put him on probably a more traditional Dauntless-esque looking ship or whatever, it's going to look better. The sickbay has to be sterile. You want it to look dirty. Look, it's the future. I don't want it to look dirty, but like, it's... Think of the other ones. Like, they were sickbays. They were cleaner, but this look of, like, pure white sheen, it is a very, very modern thing. It doesn't feel as Star Trek is my biggest thing. It doesn't gel well with the previous aesthetics.
I'm jamming.
Alex is dancing. But, I don't know, it's partially as that scream generic, and the other sickbays don't really look like that. Bones had, like, freaking spray bottles on his shelves and, like, carpet. They don't have to look dirty, but they don't really gel at all with everything else around him. And if you go into a hospital now, the most up-to-date modern hospital in the world, it's going to look like it's going to gel with what's around it. It'll have tiled floors, like pretty standard walls, like a drywall in a lot of the rooms. I don't know if like surgery is going to have drywall. Yeah, Carlos, I'm going on a tangent. You get it, but I do acknowledge my criticism that the sick bay is too clinical. I'm trying to remember what Discovery's... I'm going to try and look it up, actually, because I adore the 32nd century aesthetic. And I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but... This is a render. Can I get an actual shot? I think this is what I mean. That's Pike, so this is season 2. But, this is that modern cynical, but it's got, like, blues. It's got colors, It's not clean and clinical. It is sterilized and cozy, and this is season 2. Season 3's is probably better. But that's what I mean. Like, pure white sheen I don't really... Never been my thing. Carlos, wait, there's not sickbay. That's a science lab of robotics. Yes, I'm pretty sure this is not even sickbay. The background looks fine. It's kind of bland because I don't think they spent too much time editing these or making these panels because this is such a quick shot. But it blends with the Prodigy aesthetic. You couldn't see the screen again. I hope you saw sickbay. Did you see Discovery's sickbay? I'm pretty sure I showed it. Yeah, again, I have to say, this isn't the scene I want, but yes, it is quite cute. Prodigy is probably the best Star Trek at making holographic displays work. Because this is what, like a 3D star map is thing. Very much holographic 3D display. Yeah, you'd want that. But they use them a lot, and they use them so well that it never clocks with me. So yes, I love. I don't like holographic displays. I think they have their uses, both in the real world and fictionally. They have their use cases. They are not a replacement for monitors. They just aren't. And so I appreciate that Prodigy is not using them as a replacement for monitors. I thought this was like a big reveal of the new ship as well, and then I was like, oh, hang on, that's just another protostar. As this scene was happening, I, in my head, I was kind of quote-unquote writing the joke about the Eagle Moss model, and I was like, hang on, this is just a protostar. They would have sold this. We don't even see the registry number, but I'm sure they would have sold this. Oh, I have to say, actually, Zero looks a lot better without legs. This new Zero. Even here, they've got like some lighty bits in the corner and like a bit more color. That is a lot better. Zero without legs in this new style is much better. And I think I'll grow to him easier. I still might wish it was a little less clinical, but that could be the lighting. Like here, he's just not sheening. This is a much better Zero. How am I going to say that? In the relationship of Dal and Gwen, I made a name for it. Gwynal. Dal, Gwendala. Gwynal, yes. And some might say Cat Boots. I like the idea of a ship name just being Cat Boots. As much as that joke grinds me because of why is it in English? Wait, Dal speaks English. Dal's native language is English. The Cat Boots joke works. Look at that. There we go. I like the Cat Boots jokes now. I hated it because we didn't know Dal's native language was English, and we didn't have any reason to believe it was. But that means the original conversation, whenever Gwen is talking to Dal, she's speaking English. So Cat Boots makes sense. Well done. No, I like it now. Cat Boots. Oh, here we go. That's a better look. Oh, no, sorry. That is much better. It was entirely the pure white, like, film lighting. The ears are a little weird to me, I will admit. It's almost like, I don't know, is it Mickey Mouse? Or, like, it's something weird. But, other than that, no, I love that look. That's a great look for Zero. It just doesn't work when it's that sci-fi unrealistically shiny. And it kind of blends with the uniforms a bit better. I wish there was some sort of coloring for like the insignia, but maybe it's just because none of them have coloring because they're cadets. Well, not cadets, but acting ensigns. Doesn't Wesley have a gray cadet or acting ensign uniform? Alex, doesn't Wesley wear a gray uniform? Like, because he's an acting ensign?
He doesn't really wear... He wears sweaters. We're gonna... speaking of which, we're gonna want to leave early for Mom and Dad so we can go get vegan food from you. Okay. Because, looks like they're closing at around 6 today.
Good to know.
Yes! By then.
He does. Can I stream this? There we go. There we go. He has a little gray thing.
I've not seen him in that.
Yeah. You will. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. I am absolutely positive you've seen him in his acting ensign.
No, go back.
Yeah, his little rainbow sweater.
Yeah, that I want.
Well, don't look. There might actually be spoilers in that Google search, but yeah. Oh, actually, she said they were warrant officers. That is an entirely new term to me, but I'm sure it is in the U.S. Navy handbook. What does that mean? Does anyone actually... I can Google it. It's probably a Navy term. Warrant officers. Warrant officers in the United States is a rank or category of ranks in the armed forces of many countries. Search United States. Look, Starfleet is the Navy. We know this. Warrant officers in the United States are classified, yada yada, which is distinct, yada yada. Medieval England, I don't think so. Modern usage. Australia, Bangladesh, yada 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 yada. United Kingdom, United States. There we go. Is a ranked officer above the senior most enlisted ranks. It's probably not that one. They're probably not an officer above the senior most enlisted ranks. Is there anything about the Navy? There we go. The Navy and Coast Guard discontinued the grade in 1975. Brilliant. Okay, what did it do? Are selected strictly from chief petty officers, Coast Guard. It's a very low rank, slightly above ensign. It's kind of sounding like it's an actual rank, like you're actually in Starfleet, which bypassing the academy, but who knows? Starfleet isn't actually the Navy. It just steals its handbook from the Navy. Yes, lovely shot. Again, that's a beautiful shot. Beautiful thumbnail. Bruce Almighty Moon, horrifically unrealistic, but it matches Starfleet style. And it's very much the, like, putting awe and wonder in the universe through its artistic style. Yeah, I think it was a beautiful story. Definitely in the top... I think about what I'm going to say, actually. No, I think it is definitely in the top 2 of modern Star Treks. I will put it above Discovery, especially because of its first 2 seasons. But yes, it's a show that understands Carlos above Ensign. God, talk about unfairness to the people wanting to get into the academy. But we'll see how Starfleet treats the rank. No, it's a show that I feel really understands the Federation, understands Star Trek. If you think that Starfleet is an organization, then you don't deserve to write a Star Trek. You're unqualified. Because this is a show, much like Lower Decks, that understands Starfleet is not an organization. It is a set of ideals. And it is a set of principles. It is a way of life. And this, and like Lower Decks, I feel understands that and gets it. I mean, just look at the speeches that they give. They flat out say things like this. Background art is great, especially this current shot. I think this might be the best shot in the show. This thumbnail background, I think I might have gotten it from the intro, or it's the promo shot of Dal looking out the protostar window. I think that is what it is. That's what a lot of the space shots have looked like, but I love the colors and the pink in this. A lot like the Strange New Worlds nebula I use, which is from the intro sequence, where the Enterprise is kind of flying in the distance. Fun fact, behind a lot of these thumbnails are ships that the characters are blocking. So actually, I think in Prodigy... Did I have to do this with Prodigy? Above Janeway's head, there might be a seam where the actual image is flipped because it couldn't cover the whole screen because, like, Dal is on the left or something. I think Picard had this, where often the characters are standing in front of a seam, or for Strange New Worlds, the Enterprise is behind the drawing of me, like very, very closely covering the art. If you scale me or move me in any way, you'll see the Enterprise. But yeah. Carlos A. Smith, Warrant Officer 1, WOSs are technically and tactically focused officers who perform the primary duties of technical leader, trainer, operator, manager, maintainer, sustainer, and advisor. Yes. They are officers, so they are considered officers. I mean, it's in the name. Yeah, that sounds like them. Starfleet, unless you've taken that from Memory Alpha, because I don't think warrant officer has shown up in Star Trek before. You know, they're free to play around with what the ranks do, but generally, yeah, Starfleet just follows the Navy in terms of its command structure, the United States Navy, which the only things I know about the United States Navy are through Star Trek. So, you know, I'm not a great source. It is. Well, Star Trek's rank structure and a lot of how it works is taken from the U.S. Navy. That's like just directly. Alex is, I think, threatening me with a snow globe. Might be copyrighted, Alex, that music. Silent Night, you know, copyrighted. Etiquette again. Star Trek Prodigy is not only a great Star Trek show, but also a great standalone general animated series too. It is very hard for me to separate Prodigy from Star Trek because its whole purpose, its core, is introducing those Starfleet values and that utopia. I mean, you don't need a Star Trek to have those Starfleet values. It's just a very specific group of values. But yeah, I mean, I'm writing the script for the Modern Watch Order guide. And I think in the original and in the current plan, Voyager is a prerequisite for Prodigy, for reasons I probably don't have to explain. But I think I'm going to revise it to be like you could do it, like not even quite a recommendation, because I think it would also be interesting to treat Voyager as a sort of prequel to Prodigy and see Prodigy first. So yeah, I mean, in that regard, it stands alone. It takes a lot to get me to budge from the quote-unquote correct order, or like the original orders. This is why Alex is currently in the middle of, well, at the start of William Hartnell's first Doctor, and not Christopher Eccleston's ninth. But, no, yeah, I can't separate it from Star Trek, but it's definitely a good standalone if you've never seen another Star Trek kind of show. Carlos, there are 4 other classifications of the warrant officers in Starfleet. I will have to go and read up on some Memory Alpha after this. But yeah, fantastic. This is, I believe, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks until Picard Season 3. So we will not be speaking for about 2 months, unfortunately, as Starfleet takes a hiatus. If you see me in the real world, then you've made me a liar and you're a horrible person. If I upload a video, I should, by the way, it's not going to be empty. I haven't asked yet, Alex, but I think I said I want to do some more reviews of starships with you, the Star Trek newbie stuff. We good to do that sometime in the next?
It's gonna have to wait till tomorrow because we've gotta leave early to get you food because you don't want to eat meat.
We should tomorrow.
Or it will happen Monday because we both have Monday off.
I'll get some Alex reviews. They'll probably come out bi-weekly, hopefully starting next week.
Alex reviews?
No, but everyone seems to like them. You have a link to another page. I have the link on another page. For Memory Alpha. I'll go look into it. So I'm also kind of curious where it mentions it up. Yes, if I've allowed links, I don't know if I have, please post it. But yeah, hopefully that. I really want to get the Watch Order guide out in this gap so that Picard doesn't change things. Not that what's Picard going to do? TNG is already required reading. Nemesis is required reading, and Voyager's required reading for Nemesis. I can't imagine Picard suddenly, bringing Cisco back. That'd be crazy. Could you imagine if just, randomly Cisco comes back? Oh, stress-free K, sorry for the late arrival. I don't think I've ever gone this late before. But I was thinking Murph should be trained by Section 31, because they're really a secret weapon. I don't like Section 31 in the modern Star Trek. I think it has handled very well in the classics. I like those, not in the modern Star Trek. I am dreading the Section 31 show. If Section 31 was about Murph, I would be all for it. Damn the consequences. Section 31 Murph. And does Murph have a gender? What do they refer to Murph as? I'm sure they use pronouns for Murph. I want to say they refer to Murph as a he. I'm sure Rock Talk says Murph is a he. But citation needed on that. Also, that's Rock Talk's interpretation of Murph's gender. Yes, I can show. Murph is currently sexist. Not sexist, sexless. And that was a flag message. That message got flagged, so I was very confused.
Probably because the word sex.
Yeah, I think Murph is sexist.
Rather than
sexist.
fornication under consent of the king.
I think Murph is sexless, at least in the, like, male-female sense that most species in the galaxy follow. Murph.
Murph is non-binary.
Maybe he has a sex. I don't know.
Not
Does Murph seem like a descendant of the precursors? No Section 31. But Carlos, imagine a Section 31 show that was entirely centered around Murph. Like, yeah, at least a short trek. I want a short trek. I would love short treks to come back, but be focused on like semi-canonical or even just outright non-canonical stories. Like the Tribble cereal commercial in Short Treks is amazing. Yeah, we'll get there. Alex is giving me a look. I'd love a sing-along that like just full on, you know, the musical episode they talk about, but just the like TOS style off the walls crazy plots. And I'd love like a silent Murph-centric Section 31 story. Like, that would... just for the sheer craziness and, like, absurdity that you haven't really seen since TOS. But I don't... you can't bring Section 31 into Prodigy. Like, surely that just muddies the vision of Section 30. I mean, you could say the same thing about Star Trek, but, yeah, I can't see it. No, you can't see it. Not from Secret Hideout. That's fine. I mean, I also want Section 31 to go away, but I love that mental image. It's not serious at all. It's like Incredibles Jack Shorts in my head. I think Michael Yeoh would be the perfect captain for Murph. I mean, I haven't seen Michael Yeoh in anything other than Star Trek. She does a great job portraying that character, Stress-Free K. I just really don't like the character or Section 31. It's like Ethan Peck. He does the part he's being given amazingly. I just hate that character with the burning passion of 1,000 suns.
Which character? It's not Murph, right?
You don't want to know. It's Spock. Not Leonard Nimoy Spock, though. Ethan Peck Spock. Michael has moved on. She can't wait on him. And yet, they're still writing the show. Like, Michael Yeoh can do other things and then come back for Star Trek. As far as I've heard, every time she's asked, she's still interested. If there's something I don't know, then that's great. If she's in a TV show I don't know about, good for her. But, like, the 15th Doctor is in a show called Sex Ed, and he's going to be in that show at the same time as Doctor Who. Like, you know, he could work on both. I think Michael Yeoh is interested in the role. I just want that show to die. But, you know, if she's enjoying it, good on her, I guess. Yeah, I just haven't seen her in anything else. But yeah, I think we'll wrap up. I might do the last 2 episodes of Picard, a live stream review, or a watch along between now and season 3. I will watch them. I will watch those last 2 episodes, even though I broadly know what happens. But yeah, you might see me for that. I don't know. The Spock of Strange New Worlds not liked? Wow. I think generally he's liked by the fan base. I am falling out of touch with the general Star Trek fan base. Not through disagreement, but just not knowing their opinions as much as I did. I've talked about this on Strange New Worlds a lot, but to me, he's just not Spock. He is not the same character fundamentally that we see in TOS, and I think it's best exemplified in the finale of Strange New Worlds, where Ethan Peck, well, the Spock in there is the Spock from Balance and Terror, and the writers write that Spock differently, and Ethan Peck plays that Spock differently, and it is instantly accepted, and quite clearly Leonard Nimoy Spock. I accepted him instantly, and it worked very well. So it is clearly an active choice to make that Spock different. And I could not fundamentally disagree with it more. And I'm not going to get into it now. But I'm sure you'll hear a bit about it more on when Strange New Worlds comes back. Michelle, is it Michelle Yeoh or is it Michael Yeoh? I've just realized I might have been saying that wrong, and I haven't heard her name said in ages. I'm going to say Michelle did The Witcher Blood Origins. Is totally flat to the audiences per Rotten Tomatoes. I think I've seen... Is that The Witcher show? I've seen it, and I do not remember her in The Witcher. Stressfee, yes, we love him. I know I'm a minority here. If you want in-depth analyses, go watch my Strange New Worlds reviews. I think Ethan Peck is doing an amazing job with the character he's given. I think he's doing exactly what the production wants. I just don't like what the production wants, and I don't like the character he's given. Overall season rating for Star Trek Prodigy, 9.5 out of 10. Ooh, I don't do those a lot, but the only bad episode for me was Time Amok, which, yes, if you want another controversial opinion, go watch my review if you want all those analysis. But why? But yeah, that was the only one that failed on me. I think it's not a 10 out of 10 because of that. I think it's so there are the plot things I brought up. It didn't cross a line. So that's going to dock it. You know, there's that line it's not crossing for me. And there's the little plot holes from the time travel. I want to say 8 out of 10. But that kind of feels too low, I think, because it has highs that are much higher. I'd probably do an 8 out of 10. Because you really have to, like, strive for that. But maybe 8.5. But it's a B. Like, it feels like an A. But, you know, a 9 out of 10 feels a bit high. It's why I don't usually do this. But definitely the top 2. I might rate Lower Decks higher, but because it's not having that line, it's not crossing. But it might also just be what I'm in the mood for. I can see myself watching the story of Star Trek, of Prodigy, a lot more, and I haven't actually been picking up Lower Decks as much as I thought I would. I thought it would be my most watched Star Trek because of how kind of like quick, easy, and enjoyable it is, but it just hasn't. I can see myself picking up the Star Trek Prodigy storyline, at least in this self-contained first season. I don't know, like a big Lego set or something, or just for something in the background. I could definitely see myself, yes, very, very highly rated, very good season. And I like it as well because it set out to do something specific, which is introduce Star Trek and Starfleet values to a new generation. And I think it nailed that. Whereas I highly praise Season 4 Discovery and its plot for, many reasons I won't get into now. But it just wanted to tell a story, whereas Prodigy had that goal of, this is the reason why when I go to Bozeman, Montana in 2063, there's going to be other people there who were like all younger than me. And so I think I appreciate that, just setting out with a goal I love, introducing Starfleet values to the next generation and nailing it. Despite any of the faults or flaws I might have brought up in any of my reviews, and Time Amok, which I think there's a joke I'm gonna write into the watch order guide of like Star Trek Prodigy is like an exceptionally written, show about introducing Starfleet values to the next generation. It's like, it consists of, a few dozen amazing episodes that are like tightly written, enjoyable, and, just great fun. And also time and luck. I know, unpopular opinion, but hey, you got people always tell me they love hearing my opinions.
They love hearing what?
My opinions.
Why?
I don't know. No one ever says it's so funny, but everyone always says they like hearing my insights.
Funny. And they aren't always good.
Wow.
Is
there not a but? Okay, there's no but. They're not funny and they're not always good. For Stress 3K, Lower Decks is one and done for me. Discovery is much more entertaining for me upon rewatch. I have yet to watch Season 4 again. Season 3, I actually really liked the first time. I didn't finish it when I wrote the poorly explained script. I bounced off it, which is quite unfortunate. I saw, I think, more of the early flaws. I hope the same doesn't happen for Season 4. I don't know if I'll do a poorly explained. But yes, the later seasons of Discovery are definitely much better. But Lower Decks is, it has, I can critique it, but yes, Lower Decks, just amazing. Anakin, in 2023, Paramount Plus will launch in India. Great. I will rewatch Season 1 of Prodigy in Hindi language, maybe. Hopefully, Star Trek in more languages, that's always going to be great. I won't ask how you're watching it now, but I hope it's not just through me. that would kind of suck. You should watch these episodes, definitely. But great to get another country, and a big country, too. Is there like 1 billion people?
We neither admonish nor encourage pirating the show. But if you've got to do what you got to do...
Are there 1 billion people in India now? Great news. Hope to see more of you in the chat. Although I guess if you can't watch Prodigy because you don't speak English, you're not going to be in my chat. But still, greater accessibility. It's wonderful. It's why I'm so hyped.
Buongiorno, and then I realized that's not India.
No. Doctor Who is going to be on Disney Plus globally, unless you're Irish, I guess. And they're screwed over.
Rude.
It's not it's Disney Plus everywhere except Great Britain. If you're in the UK, you can get it for free just being a citizen on the BBC website. If you're Irish, then you just can't get it. And it apparently sucks. But I know the international launches, 1.3 billion people in India, yeah. I know the international launches have been sucky. I haven't paid attention to it much since the initial news, because obviously I get it. I'm lucky enough to get it in America day one. So I've been lucky enough to not have to pay attention, but about time. Stress-free. Boy, it's about time. I think India will really get behind New Trek for those who don't have VPNs. I'm surprised it didn't get there earlier, honestly, because India's been a big push
Variety Pizza Notes.
Well, India's been a big push for a lot of people recently. A lot of tech places like YouTube, Twitch have been really pushing the Indian market because there's 1.32 billion people who are basically, from the corporate perspective, they're ripe to be influenced and, made brand loyal in the very cynical view. But, Star Trek in India, that'll be great. We've been going on a bit. It's been great chatting, but I think we should probably start wrapping up. So I will see you for Picard, either seasons 2 or 3. If you want me to review season 2 or do like a watch along, which is probably better, then maybe put times and you can't put things in the community tab. Find somewhere and just write comments. Push me to do it, but I'll educate myself for season 3, which hopefully we will see through. And in the meantime, you'll get videos. You should hopefully get that watch order guide that you guys probably don't care about, but it's the start. It's the start to those other videos, you know. Now that Eagle Moss is gone, we need something to fill the schedule. Yeah. And it's the things, the playlist on YouTube is called Star Trek main videos for a reason. It's what we were supposed to be doing. And yeah, I hope it's the start of more of those. So, Anakit, bye. I will see you in Season 2. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Again, every time. You guys have to remind me. In Season 3 of Picard, there's the end stream pop-up, and I have to remember the confirmation pop-up. Thanks for watching. God damn it. Every time.